Yo, I'm Bob. Into Star Wars, happen to be totally blind since birth. Talking about Season 1, Episode 5 of The Acolyte on DisneyPlus. This one's called simply Night. And it premiered on June 25th in 2024. Spoilers ahead. If you haven't watched the episode, I'd do that if I were you, or you're going to get spoiled. However, if you don't mind spoilers, then come right along anyway. You do you. That being said, jumping right in, and you were warned. I was very relieved that we didn't go into a flashback episode. I thought, how cruel would it be to have ended the last episode with the beginnings of what I thought was going to be a fan-schmabulous duel? Indeed it was. Only to go into, an episode-long flashback. But I'm glad that we got, I would say it's almost an episode spanning forest duel. This thing is just action from start to finish. And one of the things I noticed right away was of course, everyone's pointing it out, the cortosis on the Sith's armor, on his gauntlet and on his helmet. I first read of the stuff I couldn't play the video game, but they did make a Cortosis droid action figure back in 2009, and I read about it on Wikipedia years ago. It looks like it's in iJedi. I don't know if it's in the abridged audiobook. I'm guessing not. But it is in the unabridgment. So I mean, I'd read about it, after I'd read about the Cortosis battle droid on Wikipedia way back in 2009. So I knew what it was, that it could short out lightsabers temporarily. It was in the new droid army. That's where I first heard about it, because Anakin had to go up against these Cortosis battle droids. Well, the action figure basically looked like a super battle droid. But yeah, he had to deal with them in that particular video game. They're in iJedi. They're also in the unabridged Vision of the Future. Well, of course, if you're reading the book, it's in that too. So, I mean, you see it a lot in the expanded universe. So it's interesting that we're seeing it here in the Acolyte. And I like that the Jedi, they're given a serious run for their money, because the Master, he is just cutting them down right and left. I think he skewers two of them together, according to the audio description track. He's just making very short work of them as the episode opens, and I'm really glad that we, no pun intended, that we cut right to the duel, right after we see Osha waking up from her forced push there at the end of the last episode. As she's running, he does a saber throw, and that is a move that I used to do quite a lot in the old Revenge of the Sith video game back on PlayStation 2. I had that for PS2. And that was a fun move. If you've read Dark Lord: The Rise of Darth Vader, there's one scene where Vader's on Alderaan, and he just uses his saber like a boomerang, and really makes, well, a literal mess of things when he throws it. So I like that we're seeing the saber throw here. Of course, you have Soul showing up and blocking the blade right before we go into the really, really short introduction of the episode, where you've got the Acolyte theme playing and the title coming up on screen. And it's just a bloodbath of an episode, as I was expecting. I was not disappointed at all with the fight scene that we got in the episode. Wow. We've got more than one fight going on at the same time, because you have the Master versus Soul, and then you have Jackie going after May. So I really have to applaud the writers of the audio description narration script, because there was so much that went into the battles in the episode. So, I mean, you have the folks writing the script. You got Nicole Zanzarella having to narrate it, and they've got to get the timing exactly right because there are, of course, bits of dialogue interspersed throughout the fights. So, I mean, yeah, you guys are getting to see, a lot of the action, but when it comes to making a separate track so the episode can be, I'm going to use the word watchable to totally blind folks like myself. I mean, there was so much that went into this, and I'm glad that I've got this because I can go back and really get into the fight scenes. Now, of course, they're not going to be able to describe everything, but it's so much better than having to, get online, read article after article, trying to glean as much as I can pertaining to each fight scene as, I'm trying to, wade through the aftermath of the episode. So it's fun to be able to experience this while the episode's actually airing, because there's so much that I used to miss before tracks like this were a thing. I like how spry Jackie is for a Padawan. I mean, they train Jedi for exactly these types of situations. So she's really holding her own quite well against May here. She manages to cuff her in the midst of May attempting to stab her, throwing knives. And at the same time, we have something going on with Soul and our Sith buddy here. I like the point in the episode where the guy's like, hey, you don't remember me? And, he's... Well, I got the sense that he was referring to something other than their previous encounter in the series. I feel like these two have a history, unbeknownst to Soul. I don't really know that for sure. I don't know what the heck's going on with these two, but apparently this guy knows a bit more about Soul than Soul realizes. At one point in the fight, Soul is asking him, well, what kind of a master hides his face from his student, from his apprentice? And Sithy's like, well, I don't know, you tell me. So maybe there's something more to what happened on Vrendok. That flashback episode we saw, I don't know if that was events from Osha's perspective. I don't know if her mind was wiped and her memories rearranged. We have seen a mind wipe before in Knights of the Old Republic. I mean, we do know that's a thing. So I don't know if there's something that we haven't seen yet. But I think there's a bit more to Soul than we're led to believe. I've kind of felt this way from the beginning of the show, even though he's a cool character. I think that we're probably going to find more things out during the last 3 episodes of the show pertaining to this character. So throughout the show so far, they've kind of kept it... I don't want to say they've kept it up in the air as to who the Sith really is, because I think we all figured that out right away. It was just so... Well, I thought they were making it an obvious red herring. I was like, nah, it's not gonna turn out to be Chimere. He's the red herring. It's gonna be Coral. But yeah, it's actually him. I like how we get to that point because you get to see Jackie and Soul taking him on with their sabers. And that one moment where his helmet just gets bashed to pieces by Jackie's saber hilt, I really like, because, well, it reminded me of something you see in certain pieces of Star Wars media where, if a Jedi is wanting to stun an opponent, you get to see them fighting with the actual hilt of the saber. You saw Kenobi doing that in Revenge of the Sith, the video game. One of my friends was describing a grab move that he would do. He grabbed the opponent in dual mode in Revenge of the Sith, and I think he just bopped you in the head with his saber hilt. And she apparently bashed the hell out of Chimere's helmet until it was nothing. And of course, it's him. I don't know how I feel about that. I mean, it makes sense that it is him, but let me answer the door. Apparently the doorbell just rang, if you guys didn't hear that. Yeah, you really can't plan for stuff when you're filming episode reviews, I guess. Random ringings of the doorbell. Some kind of advertising circular, I guess. Anyway, the lightsaber with the hidden dagger, the hidden light dagger in it. I love that moment. It really made me want an action figure 2-pack with Chimere in his Sith garb, as well as his everyday meek and mild-mannered civilian garb. Because, man, they could really pack in accessories when it comes to the vintage collection. I cannot watch an episode of Star Wars and not want these action figures, because it's been ingrained into me ever since I was a kid. So I'm already thinking, ooh, that would make an interesting accessory. You could give him lightsaber, light dagger. You could give him the unignited hilts. Just such a cool configuration when he split his saber into his saber and dagger configuration. It's a very deceptive weapon there, because, right after he does that, he just stabs Jackie 3 times, and then she goes down for the count. So, and I wasn't expecting that. I was thinking, well, she might possibly end the series becoming, well, possibly his acolyte. My mind did go there briefly in the show. I was like, well, somebody's got to survive this. Well, apparently it's not her. You've got Osha and Yord. They're kind of doing their own thing for a bit. They're trying to get back to the ship as per Soul's orders, but she realizes, oh, we have to go back. This isn't the first time we've seen someone sensing that a sibling is in danger in Star Wars. And that's not the first time we've heard we have to go back either. So I like that moment. So yeah, it's such an insane duel. There's so much going on, because you've got Osha planning to use the giant maws to aid them as she's shining her flashlight on the way back to help Soul. And when Chimere is attempting to goad Soul into anger by saying, "Oh, was that its name?" When Soul mentions Jackie after she perishes, that was a pretty cold moment. Because before, he actually refers to Jackie as a she, and you get the sense that he does respect her tenacity as well as her loyalty. But he's just, I think, attempting to goad Soul into getting reckless, getting careless here, trying to get Soul off his guard so he can be easier to take down. And we've seen Sith do this quite a few times in quite a few pieces of Star Wars media. So, I mean, it's nothing new here. Now, some fans online, I've read that they're thinking, well, this guy says he's a Sith, but he's probably not a Sith. He could be more in relation to the Knights of Ren and all this. I don't know. He says he's a Sith, so I believe he's a Sith at the moment. I mean, things might change by the end of season 1. But, he wants a pupil. He wants an acolyte to train. So, I mean, he's only after a single acolyte. Maybe this guy is the apprentice of the master and apprentice Sith pair. I don't, nobody even knows that yet. Quite young to be the Sith master. Maybe his master is Tenebrous, it could be Plagueis. I really hope this guy doesn't turn out to be Plagueis. I want Plagueis to be immune, just like he is in his expanded universe book. Hope he's not Tenebrous either. I want Tenebrous to be his Bith Sith self. I don't know. I kind of hope that they keep the characters pretty much in line with what you got to read about in the Plagueis novel. I don't know though. I think it would be a bit underwhelming if this guy turned out to be Plagueis. As much as I like him as a bad guy, I'm wondering if he serves someone, because you've seen Sith apprentices attempting to train acolytes before. We got to see that with Dooku training Asajj during the Clone Wars, and Sidious did not like that at all. For all we know, this guy might be looking for someone who he can use so they can both take on his master when the time is right. And I know folks are worried about who's all going to be let in on the Sith secret, that it might possibly break Star Wars into pieces. But I mean, we've seen Sith attempting to stay one step ahead of the Jedi in the past when it comes to keeping their existence a secret. If you've read Darth Maul's Shadowhunter, which is it's an old expanded universe novel, well, the Star Wars wasn't broken in that. What Maul did was basically break everybody, so there were no witnesses to be let in on the existence of the Sith. And I think we're seeing something very similar to that here. I don't think there are going to be any witnesses by the end of season 1. This guy says, well, I didn't make the rules, the Jedi made the rules. And they say I can't exist. So now you guys have seen my face, everybody's going to be unalived. There can be no witnesses, because the Sith, at this point, are keeping their existence a very closely guarded secret. They're wanting to play the long game. They're wanting to bide their time in the shadows. And yeah, I mean, if there are Jedi that discover their secret, I feel like nobody's going to make it out. So Jackie's not around. So I'm wondering if this guy has his eye on Osha as a potential acolyte now, because he deems May as having always been weak. So I'm guessing he's probably going to turn his attention to Osha, as we see toward the end of the episode here. But yeah, I think it's hilarious when fans are like, oh, they're going to break Star Wars. Nobody's supposed to know about the Sith. And it's like, guys, do you remember Shadowhunter by Michael Reeves? Maul offed everybody in that book. I think we're going to be fine in this show too. This guy's not going to leave any witnesses behind. The only witness might be the individual he's going to be training as an acolyte. I think it's going to be fine. I really thought Jecki and Yord would make it a bit longer in the show. I had no idea they were going to go out pretty quickly in this episode. And I think Jacki's death surprised me most of all. Because like I said earlier, I felt like she was going to possibly wind up serving this guy. I don't really know. It was something that flitted in and out of my head as I was watching the show. Something that I wasn't even 50% certain about, but something that I just toyed with here and there. But yeah, they both went out. I loved how you see Yord trying to use that piece of Chimera's helmet to disarm him. And he does for a minute, but this guy doesn't need a saber. He just gets Yord in a headlock, and just like that, neck snap, you're gone too. He didn't even really last that long at all. It's crazy how spry, how deceptive this guy is. He doesn't have to have a lightsaber to prove that he can kick butt. This Chimera, if that is his real name, he's very quick on his feet, very quick with his hands. Very deceptive, as a Sith should be. So that was a very vicious way to take out somebody. I don't think it was as vicious as the three quick stabs to Jackie's back there, but man, this guy he's pretty good. So yeah, we're led to believe that Soul has done questionable things. We get another instance in which he's wanting to explain what the Sith was talking about. He does mention to Osha, "Well, I can't believe you trust him after all he did," and that's when he's carried away by those giant maws that Osha had drawn to the battle. And before that, though, I really like all of the martial arts that we got to see. I mean, because I think lightsaber duels are interesting, but when you have Jedi versus Sith in hand-to-hand combat with no sabers, I think it can be quite a lot of fun too. I wonder what the fighting styles looked like. They just go into your basic punches, kicks. I think they mentioned a kidney punch in the audio description narration, so that must have hurt. So yeah, if May was hoping for a reunion with her sister, that certainly didn't go as she'd planned, because of course Osha just turns around and she's like, "No, we're not what we were, because you were the one who started the fire, so I'm taking you in as a criminal. You need to answer for what you've done." And May's just not having any of that. She, of course, knocks her sister unconscious, and she decides to disguise herself as Osha. And, well, I mean, this isn't the first time we have seen enemies posing as friends in Star Wars. There is a Force technique called Force Stealth or Force Concealment, and you're able to shrink your Force presence. You can kind of create a sense of the light side where there is none. We know that Palpatine did this for decades. So I can see May having, been trained by, I'm guessing he's a Sith. He says he's a Sith, but yeah, she could have been trained to do this. I think Darth Zana was able to do this around May's age, possibly when she was a bit younger in the Darth Bane trilogy. We saw Zana go undercover, and she's posing as a Jedi when she needs information, and nobody knows that she's a Sith. So I mean, it's very possible, I think, that Soul might not see through to her deception if she is using the Force concealment technique, or she's able to project a false sense of the light side, because it has been done in Star Wars before, more than once. So yeah, masking one's what's the word I'm looking for? Force. Oh gosh, Force alignment maybe. I mean, it's doable. Something we've seen before. Man, this talk of Force concealment and Force stealth is really wanting me to. It's got me wanting to reread the new Jedi Order books too, because Vergere, a Fosh Jedi in those books, she could basically diminish her Force presence, so no one could tell who she was, what she was about. And I can see Khmer having done this earlier in the series, hence why no one could figure out who in the heck he was, with the whole Force concealment thing. And we know Palpatine's done this too. So at the end of the episode, yeah, you have him paying very close attention to Osha. So that's got me thinking, well, at this point in time, because episodes 6, 7, and 8 haven't aired yet, it's got me thinking that she might possibly, I don't know for sure, possibly go dark. And it would be an interesting way to keep her around if we're going to get a season 2 of this show. And if we do, I hope that it focuses more along the lines of what the Sith are up to in the shadows. As much as I like Jedi, I think it's a heck of a lot of fun to follow the Sith in books, video games, things like that. Just kind of see what they're up to, how they're playing the long game. And I think this is why I really liked episode 5, because you kind of get to climb inside Chimere's head. And, I mean, you don't really get to see too much of what he's up to. You just know he's looking for an apprentice. Oh, yeah, and I also liked hearing Kylo's theme. I don't know why they decided to put the whole Kylo theme there at the end when he was talking about triumph and the depths of despair and all that. You can hear that at the end of the episode, and I think it's there at the very beginning too when Osha discovers Pip. I mean, he's as broody as Kylo. I don't know if we're supposed to be wondering as to whether or not some of what he does inspires the Knights of Ren later on. I don't know if it kind of is going to go into his feelings for Osha. I don't know if we're supposed to be shipping those two or something. I don't focus on stuff like that. But, I mean, it's okay. By the way, I like that the audio description track points out his guns, because whenever he takes his robe, his cape off, you can see how built Chimere is, and apparently the audio description track really pointed that out as he was bruised. You know, you got to see his arms there. Apparently a lot of fans like his arms. I love the 5th episode. I believe I give it a 10 out of 10. Just insane action from start to finish. We lost characters that I thought would be around a bit longer. I don't know what's going to happen in the next 3 episodes. I don't know if Soul is going to deduce who May is. I think he might already know, but then again, he might not. I have no clue. Some are speculating that we might get a flashback episode in episode 6, because now we're kind of at a bit of a lull in the action. So it might be interesting to see Chimere training May. I didn't want to see it in episode 5. I really wanted the big throwdown between Jedi and Sith. Man, we got that. So I was pretty happy with the episode, as well as getting to see the Cortosis in live action. I had a pretty good time with this one. So I guess we'll be back next week discussing whatever the episode title is, because we don't know what it is yet. It has not been revealed. So, yeah, looking forward to 6, 7, and 8. Hopefully, there will be no survivors, sans whoever his acolyte turns out to be. Till next time, guys. May the Force be with you.